as we kind of look ahead to 2010 and beyond, I guess maybe a good place to end would be to talk about kind of what we see as the kind of areas where we see improvement and areas where we see there are reasons for concern for companies out there dealing with security and compliance. And so things that companies seem to be doing better, seem to be getting control of, and things that where there needs to be more attention.
I guess I'll start. I think that complacency is still the biggest enemy of these sorts of compliance efforts. And we will see more attention given to compliance and data governance as a whole as enforcement actions start to make themselves known. And as either more states or the federal government start to step in and create greater legislation and legislative mandates around some of this.
I would say that the good things in a perverse way are that e-discovery, indexing, the advanced search means that people actually can figure out how much of a problem they have. I think in addition, people are starting to leverage their operational data in new ways and their data as operational data, even if it didn't used to be, to document whether things are going, what the cadence processes, this and that and the other. So it's no longer a compliance thing that you have to do because somebody tells you, but it's actually part of business operations effectiveness. Therefore, they're going to have to pay more attention to security because it's a business issue. It's not just a security issue.
I guess the good, the bad, and the ugly is that I think we're all going to stay in business because I think that the threats are going to continue to grow and are going to become at certain points insurmountable because the dollars and cents that are there to be had. There's true money to be made by breaking into people's networks. And data security, we keep saying data, it's more record security, and it's protecting the records and the information. And so when we look at your technology or packet motion or just understanding that data flow is going to be huge. I think from an application perspective, application layer firewalls are going to be huge from a market perspective.
I agree with the complacency. I think that's something that's going to be a challenge, but the good news is the technology exists, and not just to prevent the data thefts, or prevent prevention purely, but also reacting. If it happens, sooner. You don't go 3 months before you discover, oh, we've had a problem, and now we find out we got there's tools out there that can detect people accessing data that looks inappropriate, etc. So you have the good news is there's a whole spectrum of tools and technology that you can apply. The challenge is understanding the problem enough so you know what to do. Obviously just throwing tools at it isn't going to solve the problem. Understanding what your risks are from a business perspective and putting the right things in place is, a lot of businesses have done it in the past, just not necessarily with computer technology. Physical security. Most places are pretty reasonable about locking the doors.
I think that there's going to be change in terms of how information is accessed internally. What I mean by that is if you become an employee and they give you an access to an application, at that point that's the gateway. If you're at a bank, you have access to bank records of your clients. But who's going to access that is going to differentiate based on roles. It has to.
I'm actually kind of positive about where we've been and where we're going. There's kind of 3 phases I see, and I think that you're hitting the last phase. The first one is keeping outsiders out, which is firewalls. 20 years ago, firewall technology was laughable compared to what we have today. I think there's so few firewall breaches, that's why it's such big news when it does happen. It's fairly rare. Kevin Mitnick can maybe happen again, but much more difficult and probably not on the scale it did 15, 20 years ago.
Plus that was social engineering too, a lot.
And that was all social engineering, and there's some cultural changes in addition too. So it's both cultural and systems keeping outsiders out. And I think we're pretty far along the spectrum of keeping what's inside. Keeping data from crossing our perimeter boundary. But like you say, I think where we need to go and where there has been much progress made is interdepartmental. There's nothing to keep the guy in sales from accessing the data he used to have access to in IT. Like your bank example, the loan officers versus the bank teller, that kind of thing. So I think we're positive, we're moving in the right direction and we're fairly far along the spectrum. But on the other hand, the attackers are attacking there now. It would be nice if we were there already.
I think it's going to be, I think it's going to be, as all of you said, the Obama administration's focus on cybersecurity is going to be good for everybody at this table. I think there's going to be a huge amount of money at the federal level around consumer protection, around data security, and cybersecurity in general. And that's going to be, I mean, security's been the goose that laid the golden egg for almost 2 decades now, and I think that's going to even accelerate under this administration. E-discovery, which we didn't really talk about, which is a huge driver for compliance spending, right? For IT spending right now, and security in other areas as well, I think is going to continue to drive that. So, what are our policies around getting rid of old data and controlling access to the data that we need to hold on to? But thank you to everybody. This has been a great discussion.